sister's a therapist and I tell jokes. We both want to help all kinds of folks.
Hello, and welcome to My Sister's a Therapist. My name is Virginia Jones. I'm a stand-up comedian, but my sister is a therapist.
Yes, I'm her sister, and I am a licensed marriage and family therapist. My name is Laura Ryan.
So on this podcast, we talk about mental health issues, gender issues, things that are just in the zeitgeist, stuff we pick up on TikTok. We give our perspectives on it. My perspective is not always funny, and her perspective is not always clinical. This week, it's my topic, and what I would like to talk to you about today is, are all comics mentally ill? You see a lot of articles about it.
Short answer, yes.
Short, right. Well, okay, so you see a lot of articles about it, and everyone I read, people are like, well, you don't have to be mentally ill to be like, it's not a requirement, but the
helps.
poster says, but it helps. The short answer is yes. I used to joke about I thought I had depression and I thought I'd had a sad childhood until I started doing comedy and I met people with real problems. And I do
you
have
don't
depression.
have real problems and you didn't get raised in a super sad family. Okay.
Right. No, both things are true.
Right.
But, for every sad story I have, someone has one even freaking worse.
Right.
And
yes, it's similar to therapists. All of my sad stories are in fact sad, but when I go to a training or anything, that's when you really start seeing what happened to all these people.
Right. And people don't talk about how every therapist, therapists have a history of mental illness and childhood trauma, but I think
because we don't talk about it on the stage for hours. That's the difference, I think.
Right.
We keep it to ourselves.
Yeah. I think that a lot of therapists become therapists because they want to fix themselves, but for some reason they think that going to school and spending hundreds of thousands of dollars is cheaper than going to therapy. And I know that it isn't.
Correct. But also, I think it's not just that they want to fix themselves. I think it's that they want to fix their whole family system and they want to prevent anyone from ever experiencing the trauma that they have experienced. And they think at the front end, because it does feel at the front end like you could do those things. But when you get in after a couple of years, you realize, oh, wait, I can't fix anyone.
All I can fix is myself.
Not even myself sometimes.
Depression affects 8.4% of the general population. Does that feel low to you?
Yes. I think it's 8.4% of people have filled in a study that said they were depressed. But I'm going to go ahead and say if my ballpark on Gen Pop is probably, major depressive disorder, probably 30%, I would say, of the Gen Pop, at least of America.
Wow. So I've made 4 lists of comedians' various issues, and there's huge crossover, but I had to sort them. And my lists are alcoholics, drug addicts, depression, overdose, and suicide. So obviously, you would tend to think everybody in the overdose category was also in the addict category.
Right.
But so for depression, people who are still walking and talking with depression, the amazing Stephen Fry.
Yeah.
Pete Davidson, who also is a person.
Absolutely. I think he has bipolar, but yes.
Yeah, bipolar depression and drug addiction.
And Michael Ian Black. And borderline personality disorder also.
And borderline, that's right, I forgot. Michael Ian Black, Gary Goldman has talked a lot about his depression. Patton Oswalt has talked on stage about his depression a lot. Louis Anderson, who we just lost, who wanted to kill himself because he lost a gig on a game show. That's depression, team. You can't kill yourself because you lose a job. And then Maria Bamford, who is also bipolar, and has other stuff going on, and she's like a beacon, but also mentally ill moths flock to. Her fan base, she's talked so openly about depression and about her mental disorders and anxiety. She's so open and free about it, and does make it funny. I think that she's the one comic who I really think has done something positive.
I think she's a beacon because she's a miracle. Right.
Mhm.
Well, there's
Yeah.
so few people who are that, distressed who could cobble together a career like hers. That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's amazing. She is a
But
superhuman person.
it certainly feels that way. But like also, in a moment where I believe it was when she had the Target ads that made her a skadillion dollars
Yes.
and was a very recognizable person on television. She also had a breakdown in Chicago and didn't know how to get on an airplane. Like,
Yeah. It was a psychotic break, I believe, is what you would call that.
yeah, yes. But so those are my poster children for depression, and
Well,
all of them have talked about it, obviously publicly.
so is there has anyone ever studied mental illness, like as a whole in the community, like in the community? Because I was thinking what you were going to say is that 8% of the general population of America is depressed, but in the comedy community, it's like 99%. Like, has anyone ever studied that? Is there anything out there about that?
I couldn't find anything, and like I think one of the driving factors of not having that number is that very few comedians can afford mental help.
Yeah,
So,
that's true.
but there's a couple things that kind of overlap here. So on my depressive suicides list, I've got Brody Stevens, who was a big person in LA, who was in the Hangover movies, who had worked warm up for late night. And like when he died, it was very hard because like he was super visible. He talked about his mental illness, but the night before he died, he did a show. And like,
Yeah.
I think everybody thinks they're going to be able to identify the person who's going to kill themselves. And you couldn't. Like I had worked with him not long before.
Did he have
And
bipolar? What was his diagnosis? Does anyone know?
I know he was depressed. He may have been bipolar. A nice thing that has come out of that is that the Laugh Factory has hired a psychologist to talk to comedians with depression.
That's amazing.
And every year it's really nice. Every year there is a Stephen Brody celebration it's August 18th, which is only significant because he would talk a lot about being from the 818 area code. Okay, so Charles Rocket, Richard Jeni, who was he was a famous road comic. He had done some TV. Steve Lubetkin, who is unfortunately only famous for his suicide. He is the guy who jumped off of the Comedy Store and killed himself in a very public way.
Oof.
I think there's a couple elements that drive depressed people towards comedy.
Yeah.
I think one of them is that performance is an endorphin and dopamine release. And I have a joke about this, which is after we started leaving lockdown, a lot of comedians started saying, I can't wait to get back to comedy. Stand-up comedy is my therapy.
Right.
And it's the drug that makes you forget you need therapy. So I think,
right,
especially like when you're new, like I feel very little anymore, but like when you're new in comedy, when you're like a new stand-up, like the rush you get from having a really good set, like I used to not be able to sleep.
Right.
Yeah. And like just be like energized and enervated, and it was high.
You're pumped with norepinephrine.
Right. And it feels amazing. It's not a lasting salt. So on your overdose list, you got your Lenny Bruce, John Belushi, who also crosses over into the fat funny comics, Chris Farley, samesies.
Yeah. Eating disorder and drug and alcohol abuse.
Mitch Hedberg, who was someone who I liked a great deal.
Same.
Harris Whittles is someone that people may not know. Like he was someone who was so funny in the LA scene. He was already writing for television. He was writing for the Sarah Silverman show, but he struggled with addiction and he overdosed on heroin, like super young, something like 23, like
oh, wow.
Absolutely insane. And like really traumatized everybody. I think there's a link between that endorphin rush and self-medicating and drug addiction. Like I think there's two things, and I'm not a doctor, but there's two things that tend to go together. Seeking that rush, right? Because you've got problems, you're depressed, you're bipolar, whatever, and trying to solve that with comedy. And then also you've got the thing where you've got to numb yourself when it didn't go that good.
Yeah.
Like alcoholism particularly can smooth out the bumps, like, help you come down from the highs, but help you not feel so bad during the, like, just kind of numb you out.
I'm interested. I'm interested in the Fat Dead comics. So we have Ralphie May,
Ralphie May.
right? We have Chris Farley. We have John Belushi. I just think it's really interesting because to me, all of it is drug seeking. I think wanting to stand up in front of people and perform is also drug seeking.
Yes, very much so.
It's a natural drug, but it is a drug. It's a hell of a drug,
But
as
it is a
many
drug.
say.
And like Ralphie May, he died of a heart attack, but also
Had
he
years
was
of
also
drug
abusing,
and alcohol abuse, right?
yeah, years of drug and alcohol abuse. Like I saw a very amazing documentary that unfortunately does not have general release called "What's Eating Ralphie May," that my friend Kat Reinhardt made, and his wife Lana Turner in it is talking about, like, people talk about how fat he was and how much he ate, but they don't talk about all the drugs he did. And like the thing that these comics have in common is like this just all-consuming appetite, like just trying to fill the hole.
If you look at it, ultimately, when you look at an alcoholic, drug addict, whatever, all they're trying to do is chase a high, right? And so it's just interesting to me that, like, okay, I'm turning to food to get high. I'm turning to stage to get high. I'm turning to alcohol to get high. I'm turning to drugs to get high. And I'm also turning to sex to get high. That's another, choice that all of these men make.
So here's my alcoholics, drug addicts, parentheses, food addicts list. John Mulaney.
Yeah.
Paula Poundstone, who's a genius. I think out of all these comics, she and Maria Bamford, I think, are geniuses. Craig Ferguson, obviously, America didn't know him till he was done with his addiction, but he still has elements of that in his personality.
Yeah.
Doug Benson.
Mm-hmm. He is a drug addict, but he has made a career out of his drug addiction.
He's made a career, and like it's very funny, like, because when marijuana became kind of like, personal use marijuana became legal in many states, I was like, this handful of pot comics that exist, their careers are going to be over because there's nothing interesting about this. Like, this drug that you're fascinated with is the same thing your mom takes for a bad back. Like, it's not sexy anymore.
No.
But bless him, he seems to have retained. But like, yeah, everybody talks about how much weed he smokes. A friend of mine was like, well, nobody talks about the 10 to 12 vodka sodas he has on stage in the evening.
Right.
Ralphie May, a food addict and drug addict, and then Russell Brand. Also on my list of alcoholics, drug addicts, John Candy died of a heart attack. Do you know how old he was when he died?
45.
43.
That was close.
You've got Belushi, Chris Farley, and John Candy. And what's sad is, like, Chris Farley worshiped Belushi.
Yeah.
And then had the same trajectory. Young, funny, fat guy
with a drug problem.
with a very real drug problem. Yeah, it feels like 100% of comics are mentally ill. Like, and also when you think about what comedy is, in order to get good at comedy, you have to go on stage before you're ready to go on stage. Like, you become ready by doing it.
Right.
And it's so painful.
Yeah. I mean, and you have to ask yourself, who would put themselves through that if they were mentally well?
Who would do this? Who would do this? Who would do this? And for what? For the love of an audience. Eddie Izzard has talked about the relationships between comedians and their audience, and how being a comedy fan, like being a fan of a particular person, it is a very addictive thing, because she was like, comedy's this high and the comic is experiencing it, but the audience is experiencing it. And then once you start doing it, that's all you want. That's all they want you to do.
Right. So you're mentioning all these people who struggle with mental illness, and you're saying, what comics aren't mentally ill. So a mental disorder is considered, the definition is a wide range of conditions that affect mood, thinking, and behavior. So have you ever worked with anyone who doesn't have that?
That's an interesting question, because why would they wind up here? Like, of all the things you could do with your life.
It's like a self-sorting mechanism, right?
Yes. Our father, who I don't know if you knew this, we have we used to, and we've misplaced him for several years. Well, I know where he is. He's in my underwear drawer in a bag, but
he is in my laundry room. He's on the shelf.
So our father had major depressive disorder and very much self-medicated with comedy. I think that's one thing that like resonates with me about Eddie Izzard's like assessment, because if you remember, like he would just listen to comedy records nonstop in the car and watch comedy movies. And I remember at one point, like there was something he said he wanted to see, but it was a drama, like it was sad. And he was like, I don't know if I can handle it right now. Like he would almost exclusively consume comedy, which as an adult, I find strange. But when I was a kid, I was like, well, this is what
grown-ups do, right? They just watch
This is what grown-ups do.
Airplane and Trading Places
Over
800
and
times.
over.
And listen to Firesign Theater in the car.
Right. And, the sad truth of it is that by the time I figured out that that's what was happening, I was already addicted to comedy and doing comedy.
Just circling back to Dad, I feel like, it is not a mystery to me that all of his children are very much interested in being funny, right? Because that was kind of in our family, and the fact that two of our family members are, interested in comedy and doing comedy in different ways. I just feel like, out of 5 kids, 4 of them like to perform publicly on a regular basis. So, and I think that was because in our family system, it was rewarded to be funny and to be the center of attention. And I think we had to, because we were raised by wolves, we had to sort of fight each other. And I think we fought for the stage of life. And I think, to me, like it makes sense to me that 2 of us would have gone on to try to be comics, because you spend your whole childhood trying to make this depressed man laugh.
Trying to shove everybody else out of the way and get center stage. And honestly, I think the sibling that never sought the stage is because she didn't really grow up with that.
Yeah, you're probably right.
If she had stuck around a little while longer, she'd be out here doing jazz hands with the rest of us.
Probably, yeah. Well, I mean, although mom was a big support. I mean, Emily did a lot of theater.
Oh yeah,
yeah. So.
Yeah, that's true. I think her Rizzo in Grease was among the finest theatrical performances I've ever seen.
It was a chef's kiss. I mean, she brought me to tears. It was very compelling. She did a great job. The Sherman Community Players look like shit compared to that.
They look like assholes.
Except for Kyra, she was amazing as Frenchie, because she might be listening to this. She was good. She was good. I'm going to give her credit.
XOX Kyra. So now I looked it up. So comics are not, and maybe it's because very few comics are full-time, making their living from it. But like comics are not the top suicide rate professions.
Dentists
You probably know one of them. Dentists and doctors is number 1.
Yeah, that tracks.
Doctors are always burning the candle at both ends. They're always burning out.
But honestly, I know my mother's brain surgeon pretty well on a personal level. And if you talk about his reason for getting into medicine, it's very much like your reason for getting into comedy. He needed to be exceptional and impress his mother, and that's how he ended up there. So I think it's a similar. Again, I feel like, does anyone do anything to not try to impress their parents? I don't know.
Right.
I don't know.
Who are these people? And they're going to die. So you've spent your whole life trying to impress someone. And it's also occurring to me in this moment. I started doing comedy in an attempt to impress my dad. Did it work? No, it did not.
No.
And then my mom just wants me to have a desk job. Like, so how can I satisfy?
You're doing both. You're doing both.
I'm doing both.
You're living the best of both worlds. So here's something I can say about your mom. As much as she wants you to have reliability and stability and income, she also wants you to get attention, because then she can kind of secondhand take responsibility for that. So I think you were getting it from both people, is what I'm trying to say.
That's true. My mother is never happier than when I take her to a show that I am performing on, or like never used to be happier than in that moment where she could take and I'm her mother.
Right. Or when we're doing karaoke and she's there. She loves that.
Yeah, she loves that. She loves it. Because it's a source. She can feed off of it.
It's secondary. She gets secondary attention.
A couple years ago, a show in Austin that it was going for a very long time called Sure Thing. is coming to a close. And I did it a couple times. I was glad to do it. One time I brought my mother, and at that time they were at the Java place,
Boston
coffee
Java
shop.
Company, now defunct.
But they had a big theater in the back, this
Right.
big cool room. And when I met the hosts, they were like, hey, thank you for doing the show. We have a tab for the comics. So like, you can have like a coffee or a little smoothie, or like, it's just a little coffee shop, but like you can have something if you would like. And then, so my mother gets in line and gets herself a smoothie. And then she says, and put it on the comedians tab. And I said, Mom, but you're not, Brendan told me I could. I'm like, but Mom, you're not performing. I am. And she was like, oh. But like she loves to take that ownership. I was talking to a friend about my dad's love for George Carlin. And I have retained all these many years the last text message on my phone that I sent to him, which is that just being out and about in LA, I had met Kelly Carlin, and he never responded to it. And my friend said, oh my God, is it because he died? And I'm like, oh, no. He just was an asshole.
It was a solid year between me sending that text and him dying.
A man goes to his doctor and says, and the doctor's like, what's wrong with you? And he was like, I'm so sad. I'm so depressed. I can't eat. I can't sleep. I really want to die. And the doctor says, well, I've got a great solve for you. There's a performer in town right now, and he's the funniest clown in the world. And his name is Pagliacci, and he kills audiences all over the world. And if you go see this guy, it's going to cheer you up.
It's going to be
the guy says, Doctor, I am Pagliacci.
and one more, this is a cool tie-in.
Yeah.
The Pagliacci is the theme song written by Rhett Miller for a great podcast called The Hilarious World of Depression, which everyone should check out.
Yeah, I think as much as we want to resist the sad clown thing, we kind of are that.
Zach Galifianakis made a whole show about it.
Oh my God. And I can't fucking watch that show, even though Martha Kelly is on it and she's so amazing. Louis Anderson was so amazing.
I've given it a shot. I've tried so many times to watch it, but yeah,
Zach Galifianakis is so amazing, but it's so fucking sad. I cannot watch it.
Also, never forget,
really
R.I.P. Shakes the Clown. Bobcat Gold.
I love.
That's amazing.
Bobcat might still be alive.
Yes, but also Shakes the Clown is not really a person, so that's saying all right.
No, he's not. But Shakes the Clown, for any comedians or mental health professionals, a comedian friend of mine pointed this out to me, and I was obsessed with that movie. My father loved Bobcat Goldthwait. I love Bobcat Goldthwait. I'm very happy, very, very slight acquaintanceship with him. He's always been the coolest guy. But Shakes the Clown is about club comics and road comics and improv comics. Like the cowboy comics are road comics, the party clowns are club comics, and Robin Williams and the mimes are improv comics. It's about the three kinds of comedians kind of clashing in cool. LA.
That's really funny.
That's what it's about.
It's an analogy.
It's an analogy, and it also stars the voice of SpongeBob SquarePants. So,
Tom Kenny,
take that home and smoke it.
So in closing. So
yeah,
Virginia, what are your takeaways from today's all over the place podcast?
I think that as much as comedy wants to distance itself from the sad clown analogy, the nature of the art form means that it's always going to have a lot of mental illness in it. So yes, I think if we can come to a conclusion, I think my conclusion is, one, if you were not mentally ill before you started being a comic, you for sure will be after.
I believe that, and I know this is huge swaths of people, but I think anyone who is interested in pursuing entertainment probably has some sort of mental illness going on or came from a trauma background. Because it's like you said, it's such a hard industry to get into. It's so hard to be successful. Like when I think about becoming a therapist, right? So we each have careers that are, attract mental illness. So when I became a therapist, what I realized a few years in was, oh, hold on. I've always been a therapist. I have been a therapist since I could speak because I was taking care of really low functioning mentally ill people. And I think that, there's certain careers that, we were primed. I know for me, at least, I was primed to be funny from probably, 2 or 3 years old. I was constantly trying to impress and make these two very, very depressed people happy. Right.
Yeah.
So I think that's it. I feel like, I don't think it's comedy in and of itself. It's the people who are drawn to that are people who've been doing it their whole life for mentally ill people.
Laura, where can people find you online if they want to know more about you or your practice?
They can find me at lauraryan.org, which is my website, or they can find me on TikTok at I am Laura Ryan. Virginia, where can people find you on social medias?
You can find me at Badinia, BADINIA.com. That's also my TikTok and my Insta and pretty much anything you want. If you have any questions or comments or things you want us to address, please write us at hello@mysistersatherapist.com. And please subscribe to this podcast if you enjoy these somewhat unfocused ramblings.
Two mentally ill women who are related.
Two mentally ill women who grew up in the same household. Thank you so much, and like and subscribe.
Thank you. Bye.